So the mind will do everything to remain relevant. The mind will display you all the different things that it knows will take your attention away. I can't help but speak in this sort of divisive, dual way in this case, as though the mind and you are separate. There is really no mind, there is no boundary in which there is the experience or the contents of the reality that appears. It's all appearing. There is no inside, there is no outside, but we make this distinguishment for better navigation of attention, so to speak. But in essence, there is no inside or outside. Whatever appears, you can say, is appearing inside you. Whatever you hear, whatever you see, whatever you feel, whatever thoughts and memories are imagined and come up, it's all happening inside you. And even the objects around are happening or are seen and observed within you. And all there is this within you. Another way of looking at it is also that it's all happening outside. Everything is happening on the outside, but that wouldn't make so much sense because this body and the thoughts and so on don't necessarily all happen or appear as though they are happening outside. But for sure, can you verify within your immediate experience that even this pen is seen within you, and when it's felt within you? So, how to silence the mind? Well, I started by telling you that there is no inside or outside, and that there is no actual border within which things appear within the mind, and that all of reality is simply appearing and is simply being realized. So that the very act of silencing the mind isn't a doing act. Because you can only do things when there is a defined steps of action. And within those actions, you are dealing with ideas or practices or matters that have a defined instruction, a defined border. So if one of these actions were, okay, write this down, then I would use something such as this object, the pen, and I would write using this pen. Silencing the mind is not so much an action plan. Silencing the mind has no action. It's not something that is done. And one particular analogy that is really relevant here is one that was mentioned by Alan Watts, where he said that if you have a pool of water and you're trying to see into the surface or beneath the surface of this pool of water, but it's quite turbulent, lots of ripples, the last thing you'd want to do is to bring your hands on the surface and to try and calm the water, because doing this action will actually only further create ripples and will have the surface become more distorted. And so if there is any part of you trying to silence the mind, whether it's an emotion or an idea or a memory that surfaces, that is now witnessed and observed, trying to stop this, actively stop this, is the same kind of distortion that is now introduced when you try to stop the ripples on the surface of the water now. And another way of looking at this is if you're trying to stop a certain aspect of yourself, a thought or a memory, right now you've created two entities. There is now the mind, and then there is the you trying to do the stopping. And as you know, non-duality tells you that there is no you. So it's all contradicting. So you have the mind, the you trying to do. There is no you, there is no mind. So whatever appears can be allowed to just appear. Now, if there is any form of action taking place with whatever appears, then that which is appearing is now fueled in some sense. It's energized, it's excited, and in some sense has a prolonged stay, rent-free. So if a particular memory comes up, if you try to resist that memory, you've given this memory a room, keys to the room, and the room is all set up with a bed, a TV, some breakfast in the morning, and it's staying there. So instead, don't do anything. Because, like I said, there is no one doing anything. If there is no one doing anything, then it's impossible to fuel whatever appears in reality. Now, that does not diminish the possibility to direct attention in the future. So if there's a particular task you are working on, you are going to work, you are doing something, the realization that there is no one there doesn't actually diminish the possibility to direct attention. In fact, by giving up the control in this false identity's hand, in this false you's hand, control is regained because now one can direct the attention wherever one pleases. Otherwise, that one is constantly distracted by these thoughts and notions and whatever appears in reality that are staying rent-free because we have fueled them that way. And I hope this makes sense. I always like to refer back to meditation as an analogy here. And I'm not saying that meditation is perhaps the thing you should go and do. You may or may not already be doing this. But in essence, meditation, when you close your eyes, you focus on the breath, what tends to happen is a lot of things may appear in the mind. And you close the eyes and focus on the breath to narrow down the channels through which more of the contents of experience can appear. So if you are closing your eyes, if something colorful is appearing in front of you, then that could be an additional thing that essentially distracts you. But in essence, when you are in meditation, you close your eyes, you're focusing on the breath. When a thought or a memory appears, what is happening? Is there an opinion about this thought? Is anything felt towards this thought? Because if there is an opinion or anything is felt towards this thought, then that thought is now shaped, or this memory is now shaped in accordance to the narrative of the opinion. And so already that thought has lost part of itself. It's been fragmented and distorted anyway. So if, however, it's simply observed, what then happens is that, okay, but I can't control the fact that I am having opinions about these things. That's also fine, because even the lack of control and the opinions and the judgments that subsequently follow the thought or the scenario or the memory that has appeared, that too can be observed. Because otherwise, the thought appears, and then the judgment and the opinion subsequently appears. And then there's the judgment and opinion of, no, I shouldn't be having the judgment and the opinion of this particular thought. And so there's this whole chain now, and it becomes all messed up and chaotic, very similar to you trying to stop the water. And so if there is the thought and there is a judgment or a label appearing or a subsequent thought, that's okay. That too can be observed. And then there's a notion that may come up that there is an I that is observing. Observe that I that is doing the observing. So here you can immediately see that you are not trying to do anything. This is truly doing nothing. So the question is a bit misleading, or the title is a bit misleading, How to Silence the Mind. Perhaps it's not about someone doing that particular thing of silencing the mind. Perhaps it's allowing it to be just like a body of water that will eventually rest and be still. When the mind is nudged with a thought or an opinion or a judgment or a reaction, then it creates this ripple effect and it continues, right? But we are simply just resting and watching it unfold. Very much like how you watch a movie. In the movie, there's all these different actions, explosions, if it's an action movie, all these different scenarios and these different emotions coming up and down, the sounds. But ultimately, there is the one observing the movie and all of its movements that are taking place, all of the moving pictures and sounds. And so, how do you silence the mind? You don't silence the mind. You allow it to rest by doing nothing. That's truly doing nothing. When you call your friend and you're asking them like, hey, what are you up to? What are you doing? Oh, I haven't done much today. Chances are there's a whole load of scenarios and thinking and opinions and judgments that have been done. So, and the same goes for all of us. Even the notion of I can't silence the mind, that too is an opinion that can be observed. So, thank you so much for watching. This is Hassan from the Spiritual Walks, and we are all on a journey towards the truth.